Well, hello again, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I'm happy to announce before we get started that as of this episode, which is episode 5 in our series, Meet the meQuanics is now sponsored by Audible.com. As part of this sponsorship, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day trial so you can check out the range of titles that they're offering. Currently, Audible has over 180,000 books to choose from for either your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. To help support this podcast, please go to www.audibletrial.com/meQuanics. And now, on with our next episode. Okay, hello everyone. We're here again for another episode of the podcast. Still in Banff at this wonderful little conference that we're at, and sitting with me is Professor Anne Broadbent from the University of Ottawa. So thanks, Anne, for sitting down for a half an hour while we do this.
Thanks for having me.
So, much like our last conversation with Krista at Microsoft, you come at this quantum computing stuff from the computer science world, right?
Yeah, I come from computer science and discrete math.
And where did you sort of start delving into this? Was it halfway through grad school?
I took my first quantum computing course in my last year of undergraduate.
And that was at Waterloo?
That was at Waterloo. It was the second time ever that they were teaching quantum computing at the University of Waterloo.
And what attracted you to this?
I wanted to do cryptography, and there was this whole new dimension of quantum cryptography that I found very, very mysterious and interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then when you've sort of kept going from that, and you're sort of most well known for building in cryptography into computation, something called blind quantum computing. So roughly what is this?
Blind quantum computing is a way to delegate a private quantum computation. So we imagine a picture where we have a client-server scenario, and the server being a full-fledged quantum computer, and having the client having remote access to the computer, and being able, via some simple interactions, being able to drive a quantum computation while maintaining privacy.
Right, so the computer, the server, whatsoever, it doesn't actually know what you're doing.
Correct. This is a way to hide the computation, and also to hide the data if you wanted to.
Right. Now, we have encryption in classical. I mean, how is this different? I mean, is this the same as just encrypting data, or is there something fundamentally different about this?
At the high level, it's about encrypting data, and we have also methods in classical computation, but the difference is the model. The wonderful thing about the quantum information is that we can separate quantum computational power from classical computational power, and so then you can consider clients that are classical computers and servers that are quantum computers. So this opens up a whole new dimension of delegating computations.
Right, and you can't do this classically. There's no analog to this about not only hiding your data but also hiding what you're trying to do.
There's analogs and there are solutions, but they achieve computational security at best. But they're also in a different model because they don't have the separation of quantum versus classical. Obviously, they only have classical models to consider.
Mm-hmm. So you've used this term computational security. I mean, this seems to be a bit of a technical term.
Oh, okay, yes. So let me specify that computational security is security that's limited by the computational power of the adversary. So we assume that there are problems that are infeasible for the adversary. The difference, for instance, blind quantum computing achieves information theoretic security, meaning that it's going to be secure no matter what are the powers of the adversary.
Right, so basically the idea is that the adversary could be God and it still couldn't break it.
Yes, it's unbreakable not only in practice but also in theory.
Right. So how does this fold in with sort of the development of quantum computers in general? Because there's been quite a lot of hype about this as being certainly not something that we could do tomorrow, but one of what they call the killer apps of quantum computing. So how do you see it fitting in within the framework of other algorithms, quantum simulation, stuff like that?
It's very relevant given the architecture that we imagine in the short to medium to long term for quantum computers, where we imagine that there'll be quantum computers available only in very specialized centers. So we don't have the home quantum computer yet we still want to benefit remotely from the computational powers that we could possibly access here with blind quantum computing. You can access them while maintaining privacy of the computation.
Right, so obviously people these days more than ever are concerned about privacy. Now, a lot of people, when they talk about quantum computing and when I see this stuff printed in the press and comments that you see, people always are fixated on quantum computers are going to break our encryption. It's going to kill off privacy. But your arm of this, what you work on, is actually, yes, we're going to kill encryption in one way, but we're going to replace it with even better encryption on the other side. Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, the blind, since you mentioned the breaking privacy, the blind quantum computing could be used indeed to run algorithms such as Shor's factoring algorithms while maintaining privacy. For instance, there would be it would be private which number you're trying to factor, so it would be private who you're trying to eavesdrop on. There's another branch of quantum cryptography that looks at solutions to replace our traditional public key cryptography, so the techniques that are used currently over the internet and that rely on computational assumptions. So this is called quantum key distribution. It's one of the most researched areas in quantum cryptography. And indeed, using quantum information, we're able to provide an alternative that will be information theoretically secure, so unbreakable based on the laws of physics, not on computational assumptions.
Right. So, with your group at Ottawa, what do you sort of focus on now, sort of on a day-to-day basis? What are the problems you're tackling?
We are redefining security for a world with quantum computers. Finding what are the new challenges and what are the new solutions, so that when, at the advent of when the quantum computers, because it's not a question of if, but it's a question of when, we will have the tools for our information infrastructure so that we can remain functional and possibly even take advantage of the quantum phenomenon in order to improve our security.
So, be a bit more specific. What does that mean? I mean, the layperson's not certainly not well versed in this kind of stuff. So, I mean, could you give sort of even if it's not an exact analogy or a breakdown as to what that entails? I mean, why do we have these things to begin with? I mean, we talked about standards a couple of weeks ago with Jared from Melbourne, but he was talking standardised, units of measure and standardised things for the metre and the second. Is it sort of the information equivalent of this?
Well, we're certainly not working on standards, but we're working on the underlying theory that would eventually become standards. So what type of new protocols do we need to look at, given that quantum information is a reality? For instance, how are we going to even encrypt quantum data? How are we going to protect quantum data from modifications? Even also other applications like how can we take advantage of the no cloning principle of quantum information in order to create things like quantum money, which are unforgeable banknotes that also seem to provide some level of security beyond what we can achieve with conventional methods.
So I'm going to diverge here because quantum money, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Go a bit more into that.
So the no cloning principle in quantum information says it's not possible in general to take a quantum state and make a second copy of it, a perfect copy of it. So the quantum money takes advantage of this by creating banknotes, also sometimes called subway tokens, that are unforgeable, not at the level of the difficulty of reproducing the physical object, but at the intrinsic level of difficulty of cloning the quantum information.
Right, so it's basically a quantum watermark, and because quantum mechanics doesn't allow you to copy things, it's by definition uncopyable.
Yes, and not only that, but if there's an attempt to copy, it will actually destroy it. So that would be a deterrent to any type of attempt at counterfeiting.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, considering many people have seen pictures of sort of prototype quantum computers, this is a bit pie in the sky, because the actual technology to do this isn't really readily embeddable into a banknote. But, I mean, are people considering this, or is this still just sort of, in principle, we could do this at some point in the future when the technology becomes small enough, fast enough, cheap enough, etc.?
I would say it's very much in principle, because we're talking about quantum memories, which are really in their infancy right now in terms of building these things. So it's about being ready, as I said, for when the technology is available, that we know what tools we'll be able to implement.
Okay. So I've done this with everybody. I ask people to see or predict where they think things are going to happen technologically in the next 5 to 10 years. And then we'll come back, hopefully if we're all still around in 5 or 10 years, and figure out who got it right. So in terms of your specific work and how your work relates to the field, and also the technology development, I mean, what would be your predictions in the next 5 years, 10 years?
In the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to hear a lot more about retooling our current information infrastructure so that it's secure against quantum attacks. So this is what is called post-quantum cryptography. That is finding alternatives to our current public key infrastructure that withholds attacks by quantum computers. So I think that's going to become almost common, everyday household terms that people will hear if they're working in information in IT. And that's because we have more and more evidence that the factoring algorithm is going to become more closer to being a reality, and we need to, even though a full-scale quantum computer might be more than 10 years away, we need to protect our current information because it can always be stored and attacked in the future. So the reality is that we need to look at that today, and I think in 5 to 10 years, hopefully we'll be ready and have implemented these post-quantum secure crypto systems.
Are there techniques, like if there are people listening who are in the IT sector or the security sector, are there techniques that you could either say have been proven or are strongly suggestive to be resilient against this new generation of quantum technologies?
Yes, there are techniques, and they're currently being standardized, is my understanding, that are called lattice-based cryptography, code-based cryptography, and however, we still need a lot more research on what types of quantum attacks could be possible. And we need more work on quantum cryptanalysis in particular to understand what are the parameters that we really need in order to have security.
Okay, so at the very least it looks as though classical security can be maintained in this new world, just we're going to have to rethink some of the protocols and techniques that are actually pretty widely used, so
yes.
We're going to have to change things quite a bit.
Yes.
Okay, so we may as well wrap it up soon, but as I ask every guest, is there anything you want to plug going on in Ottawa?
Going on in Ottawa, we have a very exciting group and a growing group that are working on extremely important questions in quantum cryptography. It's really, I encourage people to keep up to date on the things that are going on. Really cool things that are coming up are things like quantum homomorphic encryption, possibly quantum obfuscation.
All kinds of things.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, or just go study at Ottawa.
Of course. We're looking for motivated and bright students and postdocs, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for sitting down for doing this for a couple of minutes, and hopefully people will get some idea of what's going on when it comes to quantum cryptography and quantum key distribution and all this other stuff that I only passably understand. So that's it for this little episode from here. Maybe I'll talk to somebody else and upload this, but otherwise, please share this on iTunes, share it on SoundCloud, and thanks again for listening. Cheers.